American Craftsman podcast is sponsored by Hayfla. Hayfla offers a wide range of products and solutions for the woodworking and furniture making industries, from hinges and drawer slides to connectors and dowels, sandpaper, shop carts, wood glue, and everything in between. Exclusive product lines such as Lux LED lighting and Slido door hardware ensure that every project you create is built to last. Learn more at hayfla.com.
Wow! I feel good.
Welcome back. Rob is a little under the weather today, so he's not joining us, but I'm here with the wonderful Lindsay Price of LMP Design Company.
Yeah, that's the shortened version.
Lindsay Marie Price Design Company.
Lindsay Marie Price Design Co. Is it in full, but usually emails LMP Design Co. You know.
Interior designer, architect.
Yes, just not licensed yet, but
close
doing
enough,
that. Yeah.
Close enough.
The bills and the time, are all in there. So
yeah, we've had discussions about the student loan crisis.
Personally.
yeah, and on the podcast. So I guess probably the best way. You're only the second interior designer we've had on the podcast,
okay.
So probably best to tell everyone a little bit about yourself, how you got into interior design, what led you to want to get into it.
Okay. So I started out, when I was younger with my mother, she would always be rearranging rooms, fixing stuff. She used to refinish furniture for fun. My dad's a carpenter, so he worked for New York City for the union. Mm-hmm. So everybody was always doing, some kind of project.
Right.
So I was surrounded by that my whole life. And then, when I was trying to decide what I wanted to do, going all the way back to high school, I was in an art major program. So artistic, obviously, but my whole life kind of, was interested in art, puzzles, all that kind of stuff as a young person. And then, in high school, when they gave you the opportunity to kind of almost pre-college pick kind of what direction you wanted to go in, the rest of school, I was like, hate it. But art, I was like, it was dope. And, just creating something from nothing was always fun.
Yeah.
So I was like, what could you do? Because art doesn't
pay.
No offense. Doesn't make any money. So, and, I had family members that were like, painting's not going to pay your bills kind of thing.
Yeah. We've had that discussion here, with furniture. It's like, we want to be creative and make artistic furniture, but people don't buy that,
There's such a small percentage of people who appreciate it. So we do it kind of for the love of ourselves, right? Because we love it and, we want to create. So I'm trying to figure out that since I, wasn't born into cash. Mm-hmm. So being an artist or something like that was not going to cut it. But finding something that I could kind of channel that into. So interior design was always appealing because it, you got the instant gratification of doing something and changing a space really quickly. And I never even, thought about architecture kind of as a direction. And then I was at Brookdale, completed the interior design program. And at the end of that, you have to take some classes in architecture. So I did that and then met Ed ONeal, some architects, and he runs the program over there. So when he had me in his class, I was taking his class because it was towards the end. So I was running out of classes to take to complete the degree there. And I was taking graphic classes with a guy who passed away, but they were all about trying to push me in the direction of their field. Not boosting myself up, but I was good at all of the areas. So it's really, and I feel like if you're just, artistically inclined, you could kind of pick whatever direction kind of suits you. So you're usually good at more than one thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that. And then Ed kind of, took it upon himself to try to get me to go into architecture and think about going into architecture because he saw something and I was just taking it to get out and go to New York School of Interior Design. I was like, I don't know. Maybe I'll think about it. I was like, that's not my plan.
The city sounds fun.
Yeah, I was like, I want to go to the city, do all that fancy stuff. And, I thought about it I was not going, I was finishing a semester before the fall semester. So I was like, I'll think about it. And at the time I had talked to my grandmother. She's like, what are you nuts? Just do it if you don't like it. You could always go back. And I'm like, that makes perfect sense.
Sounds so easy.
I was like, at the time you're racking up student loan. You don't even think about it, right? So you're like, who cares? I'll just put another year.
80 grand, in student loans.
When you're that young, you're like, yeah, whatever. I'm going to make so much money. I'm going to pay it off. Who cares? Reality strikes, but so I was like, okay, well, I'll try it. So I signed up to do, I put that on hold at New York School of Interior Design. And then I signed up to do a semester of architecture. Loved it as well. I always thought, even at that kind of naive stage, that I was like, well, I could always use it if I wind up hating it to just know more as an interior designer. Yeah.
I think it's it's kind of like carpentry, where a finished carpenter is like an interior designer, and then a cabinet maker is like an architect. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's
and
just like another level
that
above.
level of knowledge, and it never hurts, right? Even when I'm on a job site and, you're just watching what other people are doing. Not that everybody does that, but I have a disease. So I'm watching what everybody's doing. And then you kind of take that into consideration when you're designing something or drawing something because you know more. So thought the same thing then, even though I didn't know I was thinking it, and completed the architecture program at Brookdale with Ed. Actually graduated from it, didn't just transfer like some people do. So I wound up graduating from it and then going to Drexel to finish out my degree in architecture. So fully went to school for architecture, have my associates in interior design, bachelor's in architecture, and now, obviously working the whole way through it, which was another thing that was kind of, challenging. It's challenging anyway, the program of architecture. So, it's very in-depth and very intense. And some people just, you're not built for it. Then trying to do it while you're working a full-time job. Drexel has a night program, which I was a part of. So, it's just intense. So did that. Took me only from start of going to Brookdale, starting interior design to the end, it was 12 years of school. So no big deal.
A bargain.
Just a bargain. I'll pay for it until I'm dead. But it's all good. But that's how I kind of got into it. And you just kind of get addicted to the projects, and doing actual work obviously just either makes you or breaks you. And I just always had interest from the gate. And then being able to, the best part, I think, of what I loved about school, because obviously very different from doing a project in, a studio, to then coming out to the real world, not only dealing with clients, builders, bosses, everything involved, very worlds apart, So doing a project in school, what I loved about that was that everybody got the same piece of paper with the same, criteria on it. And the next, when you had to come back in with your first ideas, was watching, we all read the same stuff.
You suck, you suck, you suck.
So that's what I did. But, but it was just awesome to see kind of what everybody got from it. Because you could, that's with anything in life, right? You could read the same exact stuff. You could have the same exact thing, and you're just going to do totally different than what somebody else did. Yep. So that was really my favorite part. And that's kind of where the passion for it comes from, is that I just love listening to a client, being able to decipher kind of what they're looking for, and being able to, I'm able to put it together and bring them something. And they're like, oh my God, most of them are like, oh my God, this is exactly what I was thinking of, or better. And, it's very rare that you get somebody that you're just totally in left field. So that's really my favorite part of it. And that's kind of what drives me in really any project and problem solving, situation there. But that's kind of where it all germinated from, was just being interested in art as a kid, and then trying to blend it with real life. So I wouldn't just be sitting in a studio with a bunch of artwork. Nobody will look at it. But, and obviously it's kind of a gift and a curse, because you're always surrounded by it. So you're surrounded by architecture and interior design, good or bad, always.
Yeah, there's lots of bad. That's for sure.
Lots of bad, for sure. But that's kind of where the passion comes from, and that's why I got into it and why I stay in it. So.
Yeah, we're always same thing, like kind of chasing that gratification from the client. Like on delivery day, like getting the reaction. Like,
I mean, that's the best part, right? Like when they first are exposed to it, and depending on the client, that's either good or bad. But some people just don't give you anything at that moment. Too, I've experienced that where they'll like call me later, like elated about it, but in the moment they like don't know how to react. So that's there too.
It could be, I think, overwhelming for people. You know,
it really is,
and then hard to articulate.
Or show excitement, or some people have no emotion. So you get that too.
Yeah.
Where you meet somebody, you're just like, oh, okay.
Yeah, delivery day is like the most nerve-wracking day because, or, install day, whatever.
Yeah.
Because there's all of this fear that like, I mean, we do the renderings and everything and the client sees it, but there's always this fear that you're going to show up and put it in and they're like, wait a minute, like what is...
Oh, 100%.
What is that?
Because you know as well as I do, as much as people love to say that they could read drawings, they sometimes cannot. And people don't see things three-dimensionally.
Yep.
And sometimes they pretend like they do, or they do believe that they are seeing what you think they're seeing. But as questions start to pop up, at least for me, you see that, oh, you're not seeing this. Like, you don't get it. And not in like a bad way. It's just that like now I have to figure out how to show it to you in a different way. And that even goes with like 3D renders and stuff like that. Sometimes people still don't see it. It's just like back in the day when some people just couldn't read a map. Like it just is a thing that people either have or don't have. But you could tell. And that's the fear, is that, oh, hold on, you didn't see what I was showing you for months and months and months. Yep. And now you're here and you're like, wait a minute, that's not what I thought it was going to be. And then the shock, you're just like inside, you want to murder everybody. And
you're like, well, it was
actually,
on paper.
It is exactly what I showed you. You just didn't see it. But
I mean, I struggle personally with like these, just working off of, plan views and elevations for me.
Yeah.
I have the ability to wrap my head around it somewhat because I've just had to do it so many times. But like, I really need to draw it in 3D and be able to move around and look at it myself to really get like to wrap 100%. My head around it.
And it's just different levels, right? So like you understanding it in 3D is because you build it, so you could kind of like equate, real life to like, okay, that's the box, so now I know what that looks like. Some people, it's like literally if they don't see it in their space, they're not getting it.
Yeah.
Or scale is really hard for a lot of people. Yeah. It's just challenging, but it just makes you more creative to try to show them different ways. And some people are so far that you have to wait till it shows up, unfortunately. But most people could, kind of get it as you go along. Yeah, but 3D helps.
Yeah, yeah. Like so, this for example, somebody sent us this, and that pink thing there, it's like a
beautiful highlighter.
No. Wow. Yeah, that's my trying to divvy it up.
A plastics company?
Yeah, and it's like displays, and they have those acrylic things. They make all these like little bottles or something. But it's like, so then you show the client. That one's kind of washed out. Where's the one? You show the client something like this.
Right, a lot.
It's a lot easier to wrap your head around as to like, and it's like, wow, like look at that. It has the LED lighting.
100%, and that really does, send it home for a lot of people because that looks very realistic.
Yeah,
which is dangerous too.
But. Yeah, exactly. You send this price over, this insane price, and this helps like justify it to the client.
Well, and usually like things like this are super custom, right? So it's not like you could show them a picture of like something that you've already done or something that exists out there.
Yeah, like a mood board isn't gonna.
No, it's not gonna cut it.
And actually, this designer sent one over, and I'm like looking at it. I'm like, this is like most of this is totally irrelevant to this project.
That's some some interior designers, and that's kind of what they teach you in school, which is why. What helped me being in architecture is you kind of figure out what's necessary and what you should show,
right?
And kind of takes out a little bit of the fluff of the nonsense that is taught.
Pinterest board 101.
Yeah. Pinterest is doing very well for itself. So. And it does really, I mean, there's great things and awful things about it, but it does really help a lot of that kind of middle ground of people who can't visualize.
Yeah.
It really does help them. And for me, I love Pinterest House, Instagram, anything that somebody could send me a picture of what they like, because that tells me a story, even if they don't know why they like the image. I could kind of see where their brain is, and I'll pull things that they don't know that they like from it, and kind of work it into whatever they're looking at.
That's one of the things we do. It's, we have this questionnaire on the website where, like, you're a new client, you reach out, we direct you to the website to fill out this questionnaire that basically goes through the project, asks some basic questions. And then after that, the first step is like, all right, send us some inspiration photos, and then, like, same thing, pictures of just stuff that you like.
100%. It doesn't have to be exactly what you're looking for.
Right. Like, you could want a bookcase and you could send a picture of a couch. I don't care what, just send me stuff that you like so we have somewhere to start.
100%. And I always think that's the best way to do it, because, again, going back to, like, if people understand or not, they could think that they're telling you exactly what they like, but then you see a picture like, oh, that's not what you were describing.
Right.
So you're giving me, you want to start out with the best kind of suitcase of knowledge and let me pick from what we professionally know is important, rather than you thinking that you're going to tell me
and
exactly
even then
what you
sometimes
like. Oh, yeah.
That's like, my wife's is a hairstylist, and same thing. They ask people for, like, pictures, like, bring
100%.
it, and then, like, she'll do their hair and they're like mortified.
Yeah,
it's like,
of course,
but
they're
it
like,
looks
this
just
is it.
like
What this is.
Like, it's like, yeah, well, you're not, whatever, Jennifer Lawrence.
Well, the best is, and I did the hair salon at White Opal, and back in the day before Cass was there, I would show her inspiration pictures and be like, listen, I know this is not even my hair texture or volume, but I love it. And it was like of Rihanna, and I'm like, she's like, that's a wig. But it's, I still want to see what you like, even though you might not be showing me exactly what you're going to get. It just tells you more about the person and kind of what direction they're going in. And if they're looking, for me, it's always like, are you looking at pictures of, $10 million houses, and how realistic are we going to get here?
Yeah.
Without, tell me your dream and then I'll crush it, is what I always say.
You're at McDonald's and you're looking at the menu for,
You're like, you don't have filet mignon?
Yeah.
Why?
Oh, God. I drove by White Opal on Saturday. I was in Ocean. I was going back home, and I saw, like, a ladder set up in the window still.
Yeah. They're pulling it together, but the contractors, I think, now are at the stage of cleanup, which is good, after all the repairs and stuff.
Yeah, we were talking about we didn't give any specifics, but talking about the paint debacle with the ceiling.
Yeah, that's all solved as far as we know right now, so that's good.
Yeah,
the color is correct, which is beautiful. It's no longer glowing warmth, so there's a million whites. Yeah.
Yeah, lighting in a salon is huge.
Key.
Yeah,
color, lighting. Just seeing the tone of your hair when it's done next to another color shifts color. So
yeah, I was a hair model on Sunday.
Oh, fancy!
Some educators in from Canada.
Nice.
These two dudes, and the guy was, like, super theatrical. It was a little bit, it's not my. I was, like, having anxiety just being there with all these people.
Oh, I love that kind of energy, though.
Yeah. I mean, my wife was cutting my hair, but this dude would, like, tag in, like, and he would have this, like, flippy comb. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here?
You're like, please don't ruin my hair. Well, your wife could always fix it, though, so that's a bonus.
He did. He had some good tips for it.
Those educational classes that they do are like...
Yeah. Well, they do that a lot at White Opal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She does her own, and then she has other people come in, and... I mean, that's in any profession, right? Like, you want to keep learning or you're dead. So you got to keep going. You got to keep furthering kind of what you're exposed to, or you're just going to be stagnant.
Yep. Yeah. We talk about that all the time. And Tom.
Yeah.
And we know each other prior to Tom. I mean, Rob through Tom, but we met on a couple jobs when I was working for Paul. we always talk about how Tom would say, I've been doing it this way for 40 years. It's like, that's a problem.
Okay. It's good as far as you know how to do that,
right?
But always expanding kind of, I always think if you don't continue to learn, you die. Like in any realm, that's like when people retire and then they, are depressed and die because they're not working.
Yeah.
So if you're not keep learning or you're not pushing yourself, like, what is that?
Yeah. Like if you found the best way to do this one thing 40 years ago, then you should be like retired as like a millionaire right now.
Right.
Because
you nailed it.
Yeah. It's like you should be doing that one thing every day.
Yeah. But I think that's personality based too, right? Like it's either you're a driven person who kind of wants to keep improving or, and not saying that Tom or anybody else is making that conscious decision, but like you could be, but like, sometimes people just don't have the personality that, and that from working on a construction site, there's people who work and then there's people who just slide by the day and, wait for lunch. And,
you can fall victim to the grind and,
you get all caught up in it.
You get burnt out and it's just like,
I mean, burnout is 100%. I'm running on burnout,
Every day is like a fire. You're like, I just need to put out this fire. I don't care
this one,
about.
I know the other one's burning right next to it, but I just need this one to go away.
I've had plenty of fires of my own. I just figured out we've been having issues with our finish. So we got that spray booth like when was that? Maybe
was it in the summer?
Yeah, either late summer or like early fall. It must have been the summer because
I think I remember seeing it on the stories.
Yeah,
on these stories.
And we were having. Oh, so it was when we were doing the salt boxes. So we delivered those. I don't know. Anyway, it doesn't matter. We're having issues with bubbles.
I will not continue to listen if I don't know exactly when you bought it.
Everybody's going to have to look back and find out. We're having issues with these bubbles in the finish. And we thought it was water in the lines because we were using a conventional HVLP off the compressor. So we thought it was water in the lines. So we bought the Apollo, which is a turbine. So it generates its own air, clean air. And I was still having it. I even had this woman, Jackie, over here who works at Timber. Manny from Tom's worked over there. It was a CNC shop. Yeah. Yep. So they're over here now in Keensburg.
Oh, okay.
They have like a 20,000 square foot shop.
Small.
Yeah. Small lease payment,
Small,
I'm sure.
Little tiny space.
So
Startup.
I had Jackie over here trying to figure it out. I've been racking my brain, looking on YouTube, Google, reading forums. Couldn't figure it out. So finally yesterday, I hit up Dan from United Finishes, which is where we buy our finish. And he actually like set up the same turbine, took finish from the same lot and tried to replicate the issue. He couldn't replicate it. So he's like,
so that's an equipment issue?
Well, he said,
not throwing anybody under the bus.
The only thing that I can think of is Chris, his business partner from New Doors, mentioned, maybe it's like a static electricity problem.
Ooh.
So he said, take a piece outside, outside of the shop and spray it, which I couldn't do because it was raining. But I went all the way over to the other corner of the shop, put cardboard down on the forks of the forklift and sprayed a piece there. And it like laid out like glass. And I'm like, what the fuck? And it's been months. I've been dealing with this for months, like trying to.
Nothing to make you want to pull your hair out kind of thing.
So we delivered like a couple things that I was like super unhappy with the way, like, it had like this.
That's wild.
Just a rough, and luckily we skated by and it's like, I hate to do that to the client.
Oh, of course.
It kind of is what it is at this point. It's like we gave them the best that we could.
If they're listening, and we know you are.
Yeah. Well, the one guy even said something. This one guy we've talked about it before, he's just like Tom. Not he's a little cooler than Tom, but very similar personality. And he's like, he's like your finish is like a little bit gritty, but he didn't care. So anyway, found some grounding issues with the spray booth. Which were causing the static electricity.
That's
so finally
wild.
today
Science.
I'm spraying and it's like laying out flat. I'm like, thank God.
Yeah, how happy.
Yeah. I'm
just a few months of torture.
I don't want to jinx myself because it's still early in the,
You've got lots of wood to knock on, kid.
Yeah, I'm only second coat on the back of these. So it's like I got 1.5 more sides to do.
But way more promising now that,
Mm-hmm.
It's so nice when you like find the issue to something, even if it's not that long, where you're like, oh, perfect.
And I'm spraying like $100 a gallon finish that I'm just like sanding off completely because it's, rough.
Mm-hmm.
It's brutal. Finishing is tough.
Yeah. And that's what everybody sees.
Mm-hmm.
That's even worse.
Yeah.
The pressure.
And, I have unrealistic standards, like I'm never
know
happy.
Anything about that.
Never happy with anything. So it's like when it's not even
the true sign of an artist. Nothing's ever finished and nothing's ever good enough.
Like I want it to be perfect. I know that it won't be perfect, but I want to get as close to perfect as I can. So when it's like not even at like a satisfactory level, for you, it drives me insane.
100%, because then it always opens you up to be like somebody else could say something. Mm-hmm. So it's like the pressure of having somebody say something when it's not like where you want it.
Yeah.
Which sucks.
Because I know if I put my standards here, like the client's expectations
they're going to be way lower than that.
Yeah.
But then there's that barometer where you're like, I'm getting close to like where they might say something.
Right. And it's like they'll have a point. So
right? I can't argue with you. Yeah. You mean you don't see those bubbles? Torture.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's always good to have that kind of like level of standard though, because you always know you're going to hit.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's not, we know we don't get perfect, but if we're getting at least close to ours, then we know we're delivering something that's going to be great.
Yeah.
So that's the same thing in any facet of construction, you hope.
Yeah. Any trade,
for people who care.
If everyone cared that much, it would be a lot better. And, it is an issue how low the standards are for people, like, because it prices people who are good at things out of the job a lot of times.
100%.
Because they're like,
they're just lowering it.
We could just get any idiot to do this, It's like, wow. If you want it to be good, you can.
However, it's going to look like shit.
Yeah.
And I mean, because you did construction before.
Mm-hmm.
But the guys who suck.
Yeah.
And it dominoes down the whole row of everything, because you have a trade come in and they're like, well, they're doing that kind of level of work.
Yeah, it brings everything down. Yeah. Yeah, like if we go into a house to measure for something and we see the other millwork and it's like,
shit.
Yeah, it's like, well,
we're fine.
I mean, we're not going to like rip you off, but I'm not going to like kill myself and lose sleep over like a tiny little gap in something or something like that.
Yeah.
And we talk too about budget, and it's like, we tend to give away the farm, and it's like something that you really got to not do. You can't charge a client $10,000 and give them a $20,000 product.
Yeah.
Because if you do that continually, you're not going to be able to keep the lights on. Right. So it's like you need to give them what's relative to
what they're paying
proportional to what they're paying for.
Yeah, I have that issue too. I kill myself for all my clients. So that's a hard one to navigate, because I also want to keep my level of kind of credibility and professionalism and stuff like that. And sometimes you get in a situation where you're on an hourly project, which is fine. But if you're on a flat fee and things keep popping up and you keep having to save the day, and then you have to, have that conversation, which I come in and I want to save the day and help everybody out. And, but then you get taken advantage of, because then the subs and everybody start to use you to do their job, and they're getting paid. And, I fall into that a lot, just because I'm like, well, it has to be done, and I care about the client and I want them to get what they get. So, I might not use that sub again. Yeah.
It feels like an investment in yourself and your business too.
100%.
It's like, well, I'm just paying it forward into the next one. The client is going to be happy.
That's fine. Yeah. But then when you start to get to the feeling where you're like, hold on a second.
Yeah.
This ain't for free, friends.
Oh yeah. That was like our barter with the electrician. I was like, oh yeah, now it's just the handrail. I'm like, no. I'm like, no more.
This stops.
I'm like, we didn't ever talk about this, so we're not going to do it, because we already did like 10 of those things.
100%. And it's, it's hard because not for that situation, but when you're dealing with a client, they're like, electrician, tile guy, whoever they decided to do on their own. And then they're like, oh, well, they're not coming through. They need this, they need that. And you're just like, that's why I suggested going with people that we use, or, anyone that I suggested. That's usually when it happens, is when they wind up trying to do something on their own where they think they're going to save money, and sometimes they do on that specific bill, but you wind up paying for it either with the contractor or with me or anybody else, because somebody has to pick up the slack of the person who you got, who's a friend.
Yeah.
Oh, this person's friend. I know this person through this, and everybody's got a guy. And how often have you worked with that guy? Do you know what they actually do? That kind of stuff. Yeah. You pay for it one way or the other, so you might as well do it with somebody who you feel confident in that's going to get it done, but that's not always what happens.
Yeah, I always, like, if I'm bidding a job and, like, somebody sent us this bar and they wanted this arched, they had, like, the most abysmal budget. They wanted this elliptical arched back with glass, with antique mirror, glass, blah, blah, blah. And then they're like, well, we could have this person do this. I'm like, I'm tacking on extra because, I'm not telling them this, but because I know I'm going to have to deal with some guy.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's going to be able to be there on the same day as me because I can't finish the install until his stuff is in. I'm like, you're That's not rough. Saving any money. Like, if you just gave us the whole scope of work, I'm going to find a guy to do it. I'm going to mark it up, but it's going to all be done,
Well, and that's also, some people, clients could be educated and or uneducated, and then you have to kind of educate them on kind of the process, because some of them really are naive and not at their own fault, but they just don't realize the steps in getting something done. Mm-hmm. So, I've had clients who, and they just don't understand how long anything takes. They don't know who's involved. They just want to have it done. Mm-hmm. And they think that they're just looking at numbers, and you could explain it to some and they'll get it. And they'll be like, oh, I didn't realize it was that involved, or that many trades have to come together for that. Happens a lot with countertops. When you have a countertop and then you have a built-in that goes on top of it, stuff like that. But some of them don't know, and then they step up and say, no, let's have your guy do it because we just want it to be smooth, especially if they're on a time crunch. Yeah. Then they have to weigh out if it's the cost that they think they're going to save on or the time. And usually if it's commercial, people pick time over cost, but again, it depends on the budget and the client. Yeah. But they just don't know, some of them. Other people are just looking to save $1 at every turn and trying to use you and squeeze you dry, and you kind of get the vibe of that. But the client
needs to be educated enough too to be able to articulate to these other subs that they're dealing with personally what needs to happen.
Well, especially too when they're their own general contractor, or they think they are, and they just don't know, and you kind of try to share the knowledge, but the personality types.
That's another freebie.
That's a freebie.
Let me just teach you this. I paid to learn all this, but let me
don't worry. I only went to school for 12 years. Yeah. I've only, been working for 15 in the industry, but you can have my info for free. I'll help you out. But that's really only when you have good clients that you want to keep and all that stuff, where you give a little bit more. But for shitty clients, it's like,
good luck.
Let me know when you need it fixed. We'll be here.
That's when we're going to do a 10 and 10 on top of everything.
Yeah, it's just the feeling. Some people just want the feeling of them saving, and they don't care about anything else. So then you price it accordingly for that person, and you discount knowing that they were going to do that. But I try not to get into any kind of discounting or anything like that. I usually, if I feel like somebody's going to be questionable like that, then based on the project, then I'll be like, you're going to be hourly, friend. Because there's no telling how, long you're going to keep me here. And that's kind of my biggest thing with specific clients and as interior designers. You probably feel it a little bit because they try to have the job creep. But with interiors, they don't ever want to let you go. Yeah. You become their friends, therapist. They want you to move in, all that stuff.
Oh, well, you're here. Can you take a look at that powder room over there?
It's just never ending. Yeah. And you like them, most of them. And you're like, okay, well, I'll help you out. But some clients, you're like, I need this to be over. Yeah. So let's wrap this up. But
I'll take a look at that next time over here. And then never come back.
Well, we'll schedule, let me know. Because some of them just want to keep talking, and then they just try to find other things. But, I have clients who are like, can you pick out, my towels, my soap? It just depends on the client. And for people you love, you don't care. Yeah. I'll do whatever.
Because it's not, at the end of the day, it's not stuff like that, you're not going to kill yourself for hours and hours. But
no, it's not a lot of time, and it makes them happy, and it really just emphasizes your work. Like, so it's good all around, but it's for people who you care about and want to cultivate. Because for people you can't stand anymore, you know, you're like, no, can't do it. Mm-hmm. Here's some suggestions, run with it.
Yeah, we get like it hasn't happened in a while, but like, oh yeah, you think you could like hang these blinds while you're here, or you know, stuff like that.
Well, they're just happy to have somebody in the house, right? Like that could do stuff. That happens all the time, like artwork, mirrors.
Like we have this guy, John. He's a handyman. We'll give you his number.
Yeah, it's always good to have that too.
Yeah, you
could call him and do that. Yeah, that kind of stuff is like the creep that just keeps going. Which, if it goes into a bigger project, great. But you know,
yeah, they always dangle that carrot.
Yeah, only some of them come through.
Yeah, usually never. Well, I think we have to take this time to thank our sponsor, Ridge Carbide. Lindsay's filling in because Rob's not here.
Rob, you sound great today.
When you need the right saw blade for the job, put your trust in Ridge Carbide tools.
For over 50 years, Ridge Carbide has been producing industrial saw blades designed with exact specifications for the cutting results you expect.
Before you buy, call Ridge Carbide and they'll help determine the right tool that meets your needs and budget.
After the sale, Ridge Carbide provides sharpening services for all your saw blades, dado sets, router bits, and jointer planer knives.
Located in Kansas, Ridge Carbide Tools provides high-quality products with outstanding customer service at a fair price.
What are you cutting?
Nice work.
Sorry, I'm like jointer. I was gonna change it to joiner. I'm like, oh
yeah, joiner. That flattens the first space of the board. So thank you, Ridge Carbide. We also want to thank our other sponsor, Unita. As we always mention, we've been using the Unita 3x4. Their Xsand. Man, I just posted about it this morning. What the hell do they call those? Xsand. Give me a second here. Such a good sponsor. E-Series, Xsand E-Series 3x4 orbital sander. So it's a 3x4 sander with a true 1/8 inch orbit. Fantastic for finish prep. And we've really been enjoying them. So thanks to Unita as well. I wanted to ask, do you want to talk a little bit about your time like at some architects and then how you, went out on your own?
Just my time in general when I was there?
Yeah, whatever may be interesting.
So many interesting things that cannot be discussed. No,
because you were saying Ed, right?
Ed, yeah.
Was your professor.
Right.
So then how did
he
you
was
make
one of the partners there, yeah.
So
some architects in Red Bank, Ed ONeal and Mike Simpson were the two principals there. So Ed had asked me to intern when I was still at Brookdale. So I did that and then wound up going to Drexel and staying there during the internship. And then obviously became a full-time employee while I was at Drexel. So worked there with a bunch of people before everybody got laid off.
At that, you made the cut.
I made the cut at that first kind of recession. But Jill Wright obviously is one of she's still there, kind of their iconic worker who's been there forever and really taught me, along with learning with a few of the other guys that were there in the beginning before they were laid off, kind of the ropes and everything computer wise and setting up drawings and all that kind of stuff that you only touch on in school. So really working with her and them was really helpful. And then really, I would say after a few years of just doing kind of architectural drawings and markups and all that kind of stuff, branching into the interior design there, nobody was doing interiors and a client had asked for it. So they knew I went to school for it. And it was kind of just a seamless transition. I worked there for 15 and a half years, doing both architecture and interior design the whole time, running the projects for the interiors, pretty much solely running them, with kind of mostly Ed overseeing, I guess, because they were his clients. So, and I did work with Mike on a few interiors projects, but just kind of being able to experience that while I was there and going to school and running projects and kind of seeing things come to fruition was really great. I stayed there, obviously, through COVID. So we had that first recession. I forget, it was like 2008.
Yeah.
And they laid everybody off slowly laid everybody off. Mm-hmm. And then it was down to just me and Jill who worked there. And then we just kind of picked up everybody else's work.
Oh, yeah. So, got a huge raise.
Yeah, right. So you stay, at the pay scale that you're at, and you just take on 3 or 4 people's jobs, which is unfortunate, but personally, I am kind of loyal to a fault. So if I ride for you, I'm riding for you the whole time. Yeah. And I'll kill myself to make sure that what I'm putting out, even if it's for 4 people, I'm still going to the top of my
and when you care about your what you do, it's like I'd rather just do all this myself anyway.
100%, which is great and not great. But you also are kind of like, okay, well, eventually this is going to pick up. They're going to hire people back, and it won't be as taxing. And you hope that people appreciate it and see it. And sometimes they don't. And really, there it was more of a financial decision because I got loads of experience. Ed is my kind of architectural mentor on the books for NCARB and getting my license and everything. And both of them have an extreme amount of knowledge, good and bad. Everybody has good and bad, but you kind of learn what to do and what not to do. And that's just with experience. And I still work with them and consult with them currently, and met a lot of people through working there. So it's still a great relationship. It's just, it was time for me financially to move on, and kind of transition out. I gave them a lot of time when I was leaving just because I cared about the clients and didn't want anybody to be screwed by me being like, peace. Yeah. I'm running your whole job, but
that
I'm
only
leaving.
Gets painted one way.
Oh, 100%.
You as a bad guy.
Especially if you're doing, I was doing interiors, nobody else was really involved. Mm-hmm. So I care enough to not, screw over clients like that. And specifically with the clients that I had, I really cared because I was invested from the beginning of the project and want to see it through. So I'm still working on a project that, 2 years later, that's still going on.
Is it that same one?
Yeah, that penthouse.
Yeah.
That was really an HOA problem, but still there and wanting, to make sure that the project comes out good. Mm-hmm. But I mean, the level of kind of exposure and knowledge that you gain just from being around people who are in the industry that long, just builds your own kind of portfolio of knowledge. Mm-hmm. So again, Jill is probably somebody that I've gained the most from there. Ed, because of kind of the educational direction and thing, he always let me kind of fly with but most of the ideas that I had architecturally while laying out plans, and that just promotes growth. So anytime that you could, and I think just in general, being a boss, I think you always want your people to grow and kind of keep growing, because if you don't, why are you in it?
Right.
So you kind of want them to grow and eventually either partner or move on, and some people have the personality where they're just going to sit there and just want to work for somebody for the rest of their life.
And hopefully this person that's growing is training someone below them who's going to become the next version of them. Yeah.
You would hope that. And then they would kind of keep the cycle going.
Yeah.
But there was really, they brought in an intern, they had a drafter there as well. All great people. But when you're overwhelmed with projects and you're bringing people in at different stages, and, you have to have people that are dedicated to not only the project, but to training people, or you have to give them the ability to train somebody and pull them off some projects. Yep. And scheduling when you have, a lot of work is just difficult if you're understaffed.
Yeah.
So COVID, I always say that I worked more during COVID, and I work a lot, but I literally was nonstop working day and night. And to have that and then not, have support as far as when you come back from that was really kind of my breaking point. So if you're struggling financially, then you have all these other things stacking up.
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, I've been here for 15 plus years. Like, I know you appreciate me on some level, but I need to appreciate myself and be able to grow as well.
Producing the work that's bringing the money into the business, then you deserve to be compensated.
100%. And there's no bad blood there. It's just the reality, unfortunately, with having such, as we talked about, large student loans, more than a mortgage. And it's just weighing on you nonstop. And then you're kind of bleeding and you're not getting what you feel like you deserve. You got to go.
Yeah.
And I stayed a long time. It wasn't like I graduated and was like, peace. There's still stuff to learn.
Thanks for
everything.
Yeah.
And everybody learns from each other. Like, they learned, interior design stuff that they use. And architecturally, I think when you work with a team and you guys grow together, like as projects come and stuff like that. I'm sure this is boring for all the woodworkers.
No.
But it's always about, I like to say that any project is a team of people. So if you feel like you're always running and you're the person that is killing themselves and leading everything, and then you have this other aspect of life that you're like, oh, why can't I afford to buy socks? Like, it's a problem. Yeah. So it's like, okay, so how long are you going to sit in it? And like, no matter how much I loved them as people, it's like, I'm supporting like, a lot of people. So
it's like nothing personal.
Nothing personal. My niece is like, stuff. And I need to be able to support myself and, my family. But it, like I said, it's a great relationship that keeps going, but it was just time to kind of evolve and move on. And best thing I ever did. I love everything about being on my own. Besides that, I work even more now, which I knew I was going to do just because I'm addicted to
You're
work.
the master of your own
universe. Yeah. And it's like, I'm now killing myself for myself. Obviously not healthy. I'm sure you should go to betterhelp.com or something.
Yeah. But reach out about sponsorship because I see they're sponsoring a lot of people.
But, I love to work. That has been my whole entire life. Just coming from nothing and knowing that working gets you something has been my drive forever. I'm like, oh, I could get money? Fine, doing it.
And it's important and I would consider what you do like a trade. When you have a trade, it's important that it is not, I won't say your entire life, but it needs to be like the focus of your life. I'm not saying that you need to, take away focus or give up. All these other things. But like, when you have a craft or a trade, it needs to be your entire, you need to put everything into it.
That's just our personality though, right?
Yeah.
Like,
but if you want to be good at it,
there are people who just want to show up to work 9 to 5 and leave and like, have a life. I'm not one of those people. I love working. I love kind of the joy of every part of it, good or bad. But my drive is always to keep working, keep, moving projects forward. I sleep it. Obviously, my nieces and my munchkins are like my second favorite thing. However, first,
but you need breaks
for
from
everybody
them
listening
also.
First. But you need to, keep going individually too. So I think that my kind of addiction to working and moving forward benefits everybody. Like, it benefits the clients, benefits me, whoever, when I'm going to be hiring somebody. So whoever that is, hopefully I'm not expecting the same passion, but like, that kind of drive, because that's hard to find, in the youth.
That's a scary, thought.
It's hard.
The idea of trying to find someone that is at least,
I just need somebody like
perfection and satisfactory, like just finding someone that's satisfactory.
Yeah, that's it. But I think, if I had somebody who I was working for who had that, even if I didn't have it going in, it would rub off on me just because of personality base.
Right. Yeah, you have to have the right personality. Like, I'd rather hire someone with zero experience with the right personality.
100%, because that's what you're dealing with every day. Same thing with clients. If you meet a client, like sometimes I meet clients and I'm like, I I'm going to be dating you for the next,
Yeah.
year to 2 years. And I don't think I want to be in those relationships. But you meet other people and you're like, oh, this is like a no-brainer. Like we blend. But it's going to be the same thing with anybody who works. But I just feel like kind of having that drive in anything, when you're creating, you need other people to feed you too, so you need energy. I can't stand walking into an office, which I've been in, all over. And you just feel like you're walking into a damn cemetery and you're like, everybody's fucking miserable. What is happening here? Are you all okay? Like blink twice if you need to be saved because this is scary. But I just, I walk into somewhere and I don't want that energy and I don't want like negative shit. So it's like, I have a lot of stuff that happens chaotically all the time. As you know, on projects, it's like one fire after the next. Yeah. Everything's a disaster. And then you're like, okay, let's clean this up. But you don't want to walk into an office and be like, damn, this is depressing. Yeah. Like what happened to everybody here? Yeah. 40 plus hours, if you're working more. But I always think it's, I know I've probably said personality. You could have a counter on it 100 times. But I really think relationships with clients and subcontractors and anybody that you're working with, it's got to be a good energy or it's not worth it. It's like, why do I want to deal with somebody who's miserable all day?
Right.
You're like, everything's a problem, which in cabinetry. Yeah. There are people out there who do that, but it's like everything's a problem. If I'm designing something and I'm trying to work with somebody, whether it be stone, cabinetry, tile, wall covering, anything, and somebody's like, well, let me tell you why this is all an issue. And it's like, okay. No. And I entertain it because, a female working with men, you have to kind of entertain a lot of shit. But I'll entertain it for a little bit and then be like, okay, well, this is how.
Here's the reasons why.
Here's the reasons. And maybe this is how I could like alleviate some of your negativity about it. But clients don't want to hear the problems. Clients don't want you to be saying like, oh, we can't design this or we can't do that or you're going to need this or talk to me about that. Like, don't say that. And I've had obviously situations where people get into it where like the clients don't want them back in their house or, or they just don't want to talk to them. That's happened to a couple times. But it's all about kind of perception and everybody wants their project to go smoothly. There's always problems. So it's how you deal with them and how you talk about them that either leaves people feeling good about working with you or leaves people feeling like, what the fuck?
To build off of sort of what you just said, something that people found really interesting when we had Jacqueline, the other interior designer on, were like, what do you look for? So these are all a bunch of cabinet makers and woodworkers, for the most part, listening.
Yes.
How can they find interior designers to work with and what should they do? What are interior designers and architects looking for from these people? What can give them an edge?
Well, me, personality, if you suck, I'm not going to work with you. But if you have somebody who works for you, that's great, who has a personality. And I really look at that first because, I want to make a product, right? If you have a great personality and you're putting out shit, you're not going to get any jobs. Right. But you probably won't be in business. So it's that. But I think if you come at something where you're always trying to help elevate the project or the piece or whatever I'm coming to you for, that's number one for me. Number two is, which I know is really tough for everybody, including myself, but you really need to take photographs of what you work on. Yeah. Far away pictures and close up. I know that's an issue because, a lot of woodworkers, contractors and everything like to get in tight to details, which is awesome, but there needs to be like reference. I need to see the whole thing. So really photographs and, I worked with on my last project White Opal, the first side. I waited a long time to have that photographed. And then I worked with a good photographer. His name's Simon and he's great. You just have to find people if you can't photograph yourself, which I can, but I don't have the time and Simon's awesome, but you have to have other people do it for you. And you have to do it, I feel like during the process so that I could see kind of what you're putting out there. Because if I've never worked with you before, I have no frame of reference. Like you could show me like one little snap of something. I'm like, what did it take to get there? Was this a miracle project where everything else looked like shit and you're only showing me like two, little shots of it? But I want to see that. I want visuals. If you have examples, I'm not going to want to some of the old school guys want you to go to like clients' houses and shit.
Yeah.
I ain't doing that. I'm
We've
not
had
going to
clients that are
anybody's
like,
house.
you could use this as a reference. I'm like, I'm not going to send somebody to your house.
No, I hate that. And first of all, like I get why back in the day you would do that. Hell no. Yeah. I don't want to go back to take time out of my day to go to some client's house who's going to feel awkward as fuck with you walking in and just looking their stuff. You can't say anything that you would want to say. Like, this is their baby.
Right. Yeah. So, their stylistic choices, like what they live
everything.
Yeah.
And, I have a disease. So everything, I don't like when people ask me, oh, what do you think? I'm just like, oh God. Like, and sometimes it could be great, but I don't want to have to give you my real opinion of some stuff because I don't know what got you to that decision either. So even if it's just the cabinet worker working with me and walking me through and they're just in earshot, like the client, like it could have been them driving a certain decision where you wouldn't do it. We all fall into it, right? Like where the person is really pushing a specific design aesthetic.
Yep.
And you're like, okay, well, there's no other choice, but I've tried to talk you out of it.
We've had jobs that have like been built around just like a piece of hardware. And it's like, 100%. We had to make all of these concessions in the design with height and this and that because of this one thing. And it's like, man, if we had just like used a different one, right. This would have been so much better.
100%. And so I don't like that doing in-person stuff. I do love seeing samples of things like coming into the shop, obviously never an issue for me. So if somebody wanted, like if for some reason I got introduced to somebody new and they're like, come to the shop, I'll show you some stuff we're working on. 100%. Yeah. I'm going. There's some people who are just desk jockeys and don't want to leave.
Yeah.
As you know, I am constantly driving to job sites and being on site all the time. So I like that kind of interaction. I want to see what you do. I appreciate the craftsmanship. I appreciate the level of detail and work that you guys put in. I want to see that, you know, because a client might not appreciate it. They like the finished product, but like I appreciate the whole entire thing. So I want to see it as much as I can, you know? So for new guys, that's what like trying to get bids and, on the docket. That's kind of like what I would do. If there's a commercial job, that's really easy too. Like you could be like, oh, we did white Opal, go check it out. You know, like,
because it's just open
or
to the
go
public.
to their, like, I'm on social media. I could just go to their website and I could take like little looks and stuff like that and see. And for me working with new people, it really is based on the project. If I have a client that is a diehard client and I kind of know their level of expectation, I'm not probably going to risk it on something like that. Like I have, again, a few really great clients and I only bring you on, I brought you on to the one project. I only bring you on if I know that I could guarantee you're not going to screw me. Because I don't want you to look bad. I don't want me to look bad. That whole thing. So on a project for a seasoned client, it's rare that I'll bring somebody on. Obviously, you guys, I was super confident. Obviously, I've seen your work a million times before you even started cabinetry. So I was good with all that. But bringing a new person, I probably wouldn't do that. I would probably test them out on a new client, depending on what I saw. If I thought like, oh, this could probably be good. Probably something smaller, maybe a kitchen, things like that. Yeah,
like we're not going to try some brand new material that's like totally outside of on like a, And
you wouldn't want me to if you were the client. Yeah. Like you want to be, oh, you just met these people? Like, are you sure?
Yeah, I never use these guys, but I think they'd be great.
But if they have a lot of exposure, and again, I know it's like running another business, right? Like socials and websites and all of that stuff. But I'm not even saying you have to have a pretty picture on Instagram. Like send me pictures that you have of just a project or a link to pictures. It doesn't have to be like, photo ready to post on a social, but I want to see it. And that could kind of tell me like, plus personality. And then, of course, cost. So that's huge. And again, depending on the level of client, some people are very concerned with their budget. I have a lot of clients who don't mind and are willing to pay for what I tell them is quality or the level of quality that they're looking for. So some people don't question it, but a lot of people are trying to save and, want something quick and down and dirty, and they get the level that they're looking for.
I think it's important as cabinet makers to be flexible too, where like we can't just design every job and expect to do every job frame inset solid wood.
No, of course not.
You need to be flexible.
That's a hurdle that you usually hop very soon.
Yeah.
From starting, but even in design, right? Like I'd love to not care about a fucking budget for the rest of my life. Like, you don't have a budget? perfect. I can do whatever I dream of.
That's the art thing.
Awesome. Yeah, of course. But, reality for some people are tighter than others. And, but key is flexibility. Mm-hmm. That's even with communication, right? Like and I'm sure you could say if I'm wrong, but I like to make sure that I'm always available for people, especially subcontractors, because I know what it's like to be on a job and have to wait for people to respond to you or like get to you. So being available, and then on my end, being flexible too. Like if you call me and you say, hey, Lindsay, like this isn't going to work, or there's something that we didn't realize. The
material is gone.
Or our material that
twice
you
2 jobs
wanted is no longer here. And you're not able to get in contact with people like suppliers and things like that. Like my job is to be flexible and find solutions. So I have to, of course, I'm going to find a solution that I think looks the way I need it to look too. But at which I try to do as fast as possible, but I think that's key, because if you're not flexible, like what are you doing? You're just creating more problems. So there's some things that I'm like, no, I need it to look like that. How can we get it there? But that's still being flexible. You're just not saying, Jeff, go find it. Right. Like, oh, they don't have it in this side of America. Go find it. Like, what's your problem?
Because it hurts everybody. It's
100%. And it's not worth it. Like, for what? To, again, go back to being miserable? Because then you make the job miserable. You make it so now you're losing money. I'm not getting what I'm looking for.
The client's not happy.
The client's going to be unhappy. Time is going to be delayed. Like, it's just not good. But flexibility, I think, is key. If you're not flexible, you probably shouldn't be working. Definitely not talking to clients or designers or architects. But I think, at some point, if you're good, you're going to be flexible and find something else that works, to get the job done. So that part, flexibility is probably key. Flexibility and communication. If you can't communicate, we're dead in the water.
Yeah, that's one thing I will say about you is, and you were just talking about, like the speed of communication. You're good at getting back to us. We have other designers that we work with that it's like we use Basecamp, and then it's like send it on Basecamp, and it's like a week later, 2 weeks. I'm like, I just asked about this outlet. Like it's a super simple. They're like, ping the client, and I'm like, I'm like, just give me the client's phone number. I'll be on the phone. Like, let's just get an answer so that we can progress this job.
And then you get exposed to people, kind of what that's like. But the difference between caring and not caring, right? Not coming for Basecamp or any other program, but
Basecamp
I have a cell phone.
Yeah.
Text me, not to say any time of day. I will get your message 24 hours a day. I might not respond to you, if I get it at midnight till the next day, clients, if you're listening. But I'm going to respond to you because what are you doing? You're stopping everybody from working. Like for me to have to go through so many gates to get to you is silly. Now I have clients who don't want to be contacted, and I get it. They're at a level where they don't need to be contacted, but then I have to be available. Or have somebody who's going to be available for them because, again, everybody wants to have the project come out the way they want it on time. You don't want to spend more money than you have to, but you want to be able to make money. And responsiveness is key to that. There's no way that you could, a week. I would die. If I didn't respond to something in a week, and I tell my clients too, because sometimes I get a trillion texts a day. I'm like, if you don't hear from me, I'm going to say a couple hours. I didn't get your message.
Just send another one.
Just resend it or just be like, hey, still here,
Oh, yeah. I'd just type bump and bump it up to the top. I'm like.
100%.
Can't I, just drive me insane.
But responsiveness, I think, is key and communication is key. And really, it's the difference between being a good person to work with or being a bad person to work with, right? Because at the end of the day, we're all in it for the same reason. We all, I shouldn't say we all are. Yeah. Some of us are in it for the same reason. And why wouldn't you want to help a teammate out? You want it to be as good as you can get it. I want it to be as good as you can get it. There's no reason not to respond to people. And for something, especially as small as that, I would respond to everything, but an outlet, come on.
Yeah.
Even with our little string outlet the other day.
Yeah. That string actually got pulled back.
I know. I listened to your podcast.
Oh my God.
I was laughing. I was like, oh my God, what a nightmare.
Yeah, we're about to leave.
Things like that pop up all the time.
I was like,
where's our string?
oh my God. I'm like, there's only one end of this string.
Yeah, that's rough. But, for somebody working, let's just say you're working with a new designer or architect or anything like that, always being available within reason, obviously, but available for questions, like not making, I always find, again, it's a little bit different. I'm not a feminist, but it's a little bit different if you're female talking to guys, just because sometimes they want to make you feel stupid.
Yeah.
And you kind of have the power to allow them to think that, they're teaching you something, because some guys need that. But at the end of the day, I need an answer to the question,
right.
So if you want to, me to giggle at your jokes and make you feel like you're funny, fine, but I need the answer. So being able to communicate that and having kind of like an open communication, I think, is key. At a new job, it's a little bit harder just because you're kind of feeling everybody out. But, I don't know what else would help them. I would say social media initially, but I usually get people from kind of just like the network of people, just knowing somebody or being on a job where a client wants to bring somebody in and you get really lucky that they don't suck, and you're like, oh, wait a minute. Like, you're actually good. Where have you been hiding? Like that kind of thing. Because a lot of guys are just too busy to and they don't really need the marketing, So I would just say imagery, communication, and personality is kind of what I'm looking for.
Yeah. And, I think we've talked about it before, like perceived value,
Yes.
like when you're on the job site, make it look like you know what you're doing,
Oh my God. Well, that should be, you learn that when you're 7, right? Like fake it till you make it, bro.
Yeah.
There's
it's
no
all smoke
way.
and mirrors,
100%. And especially in front of specific people. Like, I would say you're not going to act your true self in front of a client, if you're running off the rails, it's going to raise some flags, and then people lose confidence in all your stuff. So you have to look like you know what you're doing and ask the right questions, right? Because it all comes down to that. Even, in architectural drawing, right? If you're not asking whoever is above you a question, you look like an asshole, right? Because they're there. A desk away sometimes. Like, why wouldn't you ask me? Instead, fuck up. So in 3 months from now, we have a real problem. So you don't feel like you don't know something. Like, that's ridiculous to me. So that goes with everything. And I always I guess it's how you respond to it too. Like, if somebody's coming to me and they're like, Lindsay, this is going to be a problem. And I'm like, fuck you, make it work. Then you're not going to get a couple of questions after that. But I always think that if you let people tell you what the issues are and you don't blow it out of proportion, because everything could be fixed. It always is better in the end, because they're not hiding shit from you, which happens a lot in construction and then life. But, they're not hiding stuff from you or lying to you about something because they're not scared to tell you. Like, they're not scared of losing money. For the most part, they're not scared that you're going to be an asshole, and they're not scared you're going to make them look bad. So again, not to say it in front of a client, of course, but bring it to me, call me, let me know what the issue is so we could fix it and make ourselves look good too. And not look like you're falling apart. There's nothing,
that looks worse than someone finding something that you,
100%.
I try and overshare everything. It's like,
this
was supposed to be here, but it ended up here. Just letting you know, it's an 1/8 inch,
knowing, so that if I'm ever, so that's the worst fear for you guys, right? Where somebody's like,
the client finds it and then you have to explain it. You didn't know about it.
I'm the in-between.
Yeah.
And I have no clue. And not that I can't fly, from the seat of my pants, but it's also, I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus. If it was something that A, couldn't be avoided, or B, they missed, or, it depends on the situation, but, I'm always trying to raise everybody up. So I'm not going to be like, well, these fucking cabinet guys, you just can't deal with them. It's like,
wait a minute, those are your guys.
You brought them on. What are you talking about? But you want everybody to look good. At least I want everybody to look good, and I want them to be happy. So if I know about it in advance and you're like, well, this was the issue, that's why this is like this. Okay, I could deal with it, right? Or even on White Opal with the larger gap, and we figured out, how to get it closer to. that didn't need to be a problem, right? Mm-hmm. Cassie and Joey didn't need to be like, what? You know, like they have no idea. It looks great. I mean, they know now because of course they're listening as well all the way through this. But, you know, the brass detail, phenomenal solution.
Yeah, I don't think I saw a picture of it yet.
I didn't either.
Rob, he had to send me a close up, but not a. Again,
so I'm telling you, close up, and you need wide shots. But
we'll pop in.
Rob,
for
come on. But I'm gonna have it photographed, so obviously you could share the photos and stuff. But that is like the difference. Is if I know there's a problem or just a change, and I need to get it to where I need it, like we could work together very easily to come up with a solution. That one wound up being great, you know, like. But sometimes they're not great, and then you have to explain this to the client. But some things are just like silly stuff that we would see, and no other human is going to see that.
Yeah.
You know, like because everything, you know, all the details being our whole lives, we look at everything, right? Like I can't walk into a restaurant and not look at stuff and be like,
and they're usually the worst.
The worst. But you know, everybody's trying to save $1. But you walk in and you see it, and like. If somebody asked us, we would then rattle off all the shit that we saw from walking into the door to sitting down at our booth to going to the bathroom to everything. But other people are walking in and go like, wow, this place is great. I love the vibe. I love this. Same thing happens in houses too. Like if people
like
walk through.
Casing as baseboard there. There's a huge gap over here.
Yeah. Like, oh, okay. You went to Home Depot for your cabinets. Great. Yeah, they look phenomenal. But just stuff like that. Like we have a disease. But if it's small little things like that, the client's not going to care. But if it's big and then it gets brought to my attention, then I have to either be like, yeah, that does look bad. I'm not really sure what happened there. I'll have to reach out to them. Still doesn't look bad for you.
Yeah.
I mean, still doesn't look good for you. Sorry. Still doesn't look good for you. So
and, the client's in this state of limbo where they're like, and then
then they start questioning everything.
Right, and
then it's just
going.
like, oh, there goes the Band-Aid. Now every single little inch of that is going to be a problem. When it didn't have to be. Because if you would have told me, I have, you know, the ability to shift those waves to where they need to go.
Yeah.
But it's always better, I think, to tell. Now, there's a certain point where, you know, if it's like intensely about a 16th of an inch, you'd be like, let it go.
Right.
You know, but that's just to them.
Yeah.
Like it's not to everybody. But the worst part is when people are hiding stuff and, you know, changing things without telling you.
Oh, yeah.
You know, breaking things and trying to get you to say that it's fixed. Shit like that, like I'm not into. using inferior material that wasn't. That's
like,
the worst.
We said we were going to do it this way, but then, well, we really did it this way. But nobody's going to know.
You quoted it, and now you're upset because you misquoted it, or you know, it's taking you longer, or like whatever, and you don't want to eat it at a certain point, and now you start trying to use, you know,
junk
shit.
Yeah.
So that's their fault, but it makes you look bad in the end because at the end, the client in a year or 2 months or whatever is going to call you and be like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, we found out that
why isn't this wall wheeling? You know, like shit like that. But like seams, details like that, like you want to pay attention to because if they don't see it right away, they're going to wind up seeing it down the road if it's big.
Yeah, it's going to start to collect dust, and then it's really going to
be bad.
Yeah.
But, you know, time always either kills you or lets people be happy. So, but hiding shit is not cool.
Yeah. So don't hide stuff.
Don't hide stuff and don't lie.
Yeah.
Save that for your wives.
Good tips good tips for keeping clients too.
Well, and keeping the relationship with anybody. Like I have to keep relationships with you guys and stone guys and tile guys and, you know, all that stuff. If you don't have a good relationship, you're not going to get people to respond to you.
Yeah.
So it's very important through the whole project and just in business, right? Like I can't be like, oh, I have nobody to talk to anymore. Like, oh, do you have somebody to do this kitchen? Actually, I don't, you know, like, because the relationship sucked and now I have to look for new people. Like it sucks.
Yeah. And a point to like, you know, being on site and, you know, perceive value and doing a good job. Like Rosero, for example, you know, we did, I don't know, 2 or 3 jobs for Andy after that, you know? It's like, so you show up to the job, you look professional, you do a good job.
Well, and you're personable.
Yeah.
You guys don't have a problem with that. Some people are just odd ducks, you know? Like,
not anyone. We're not talking about anyone in particular.
Specifically, if you're a longtime listener. But, you know, there are people who just don't have a personality and clients read that and so do other people. So
it's customer service. I mean,
100%.
We talk about how coming from the restaurant industry, Like I worked in fine dining for like 10 years before I ever picked up a hammer.
Oh my God. I couldn't imagine working in a restaurant.
Yeah. It's the parallels are insane.
Yeah.
Like it's all about customer service with the client, and like the smoke and mirrors thing, fake it till you make it. It's all, and when there's a huge issue, like you're on site, you're installing and you run into something, you're like, oh fuck, like this is bad. You have to just make it seem like it's not a big deal,
and then deal with it.
Yeah.
So that's the difference. If you're, faking it till you make it, but you're not learning, you're dead too.
Yeah.
Like you have to fake it till you make it, then figure it out. If you don't figure it out, that's the part that then tanks you.
Then you're just faking it.
Yeah. Then you're just faking it, and then people are going to be upset.
Oh my God.
But you have to have that follow up for sure. But, I would say, there are nightmare stories, but there are a lot fewer nightmare stories than there are, great stories, and people have great experiences and, all of that. But the kitchen in Rosero came out phenomenal.
Yeah.
That just because it triggered my brain. I'm like, oh, it's so pretty. But you have to, I just don't know. I think it always boils down to customer service, but that's like in anything that you're going to be successful in, right? So if you're selling ice cream and you're an asshole selling ice cream.
Right.
Like you're not going to do good. But if you're, at least have some level of being able to talk to people, like that's inherent, right? Like you're born with that. You either know how to be social or you don't. If you don't, that's fine. Get somebody social to work for you though, so that they could be the kind of contact.
Yeah.
And, keep you growing, because you're not going to if you don't have anybody who could talk to somebody.
Yeah, like I won't say who the client was, but we had someone else who was involved in a job that we were doing with you, and they were like, "Oh man, this client, she's a real you know what?" And then like we show up and
they love you
if you put out the right energy. I'm like
100%.
Like this lady's cool. I'm like, she was totally cool to us. Like,
and that's what happens in life in general, right? Like if you're coming at somebody combatively, or not even combatively, like, but you put up a certain energy. Not that I'm like into energy and crystals.
They're going to match it.
They're going to match you, or they're going to feel like you're trying to get over on them, or they're going to feel like you're hiding something, or people pick up on that all the time. And if I'm like I said, I'm on job sites a lot. So it's very easy for me to, if somebody has that kind of personality, talk a client through it and kind of let them know without being like, yo, this guy's just a weirdo. Yeah. Like, don't worry about it. He's been smelling too many fumes, but it's easy for me to do that if I'm there and witnessing it. And I know that the guy's a good guy. He just had an off day, or can't talk to people, or like whatever. But if you're flying on your own and you have nobody to help you out, like
someone just cold calls you and you go over to measure the job and you're a
weirdo, like it's a problem.
Good luck. You better have a really good price.
Really, really low. Or like I said, for people who find themselves, because some people just don't have that kind of personality where they could talk to people, get somebody who does, let them do the talking. There is no reason that you can't use somebody else to wherever you're lacking to throw somebody in there, because it will help you.
Yeah.
Because everything from any job, from Target to, these big CEOs, is all about personality. Like people all the way up there aren't doing much physical stuff, They're just know how to talk to people and manage people. And hopefully, if they're good, know how to manage people.
Yeah.
But some people get there by luck. But, it's all about that and kind of being the best at whatever you do. And if you can't do a certain aspect of it, no shame in getting somebody to help you out. And I try to do that, again, coming from, I have a different kind of mindset than most interior designers, blanketed statement, because I'm coming from a background of, architecture, which is, you're just at a different level of knowing things, and you're concerned about not only like an interior decorator, for instance, the cursed word.
Yeah.
But
that's like a real,
that's harsh. You want to insult somebody, call them a decorator, if they're a designer. But the interior decorator is really only concerned about finishes, what looks pretty in their minds, shit like that, which is not an interior designer. I'm sure the girl that you had here previous would say the same thing. But when you're a designer, you're concerned about more things, like functionality.
Yep.
You know, from architecture, safety in the space, ADA requirements, like not only what looks good, like what is functional, what meets code.
Mm-hmm.
You care about the other trades that are involved. You're not like, well, they'll have to figure it the fuck out. Like, I want this to be some wild snaky curve, and I don't care if the material is straight and can't bend. Sorry, bitch. Like, you're not going to do that. But like, you care about the whole process because you want it to come from your germ of an idea and then come out to something like dope. So design is really more layered than decorating, which is, you know, again, important for contractors to know. Not every female that walks on your job site that says they're a designer is a designer. So that's usually where the bad blood comes from. Like, because people always think, oh, interior designers, and I feel like architects, some contractors also have like a chip on their shoulder about, because they think you're going to come in and make the job more complicated or take money away from them or whatever nonsense they've thought up. You're a problem, right? Instead of part of a team. And again, I'm not talking for all contractors. We know people who are not like that, but you become a problem. So again, not to go back to the female thing, but any female walking on the state, they're like, oh, a decorator's here. Great.
They're going to
be like, change this, do this. And if you're good at what you do, that's not the vibe you leave with. Obviously, you're going to get that initially, but people know that they wind up using you for more than you're getting paid for, and they know that you're going to come through. And that's really similar to what I'm saying about like personality. That's the follow through, right? You could fake it till you make it, but you're going to show everybody what you're capable of or not capable of. So a designer is going to think a lot more about, you know, functionality, how it's being built. I come from the architectural side too, so I'm not only concerned about, you know, the interior shell. I want the whole entire thing to make sense. So even if I don't get the architectural, you know, I'm not working on it anymore until I get my license. But if I'm not working on that aspect, I know enough about that aspect where I'm going to want the architecture and the interior design to sing together. So there's no point in trying to fight it. You know, same thing with clients if they want specific things, I'm sure, in cabinetry and stuff. You can't fight everybody. Not everybody's going to be, in my world, contemporary, gorgeous material, you know, like that kind of thing. Some people like traditional and some people like Craftsman, and you got to kind of know what's good about those aspects too and be able to achieve that too, not just put your own thing on it, which you do anyway, but it's just a matter of where you're coming from, and you have to know who the worker is. Like, obviously, any natural project or any furniture wouldn't even blink an eye at worrying about, like, you guys doing it. Some people I'd be like, ooh, can they do that? You know, they've been working in PLAM for a long time. So, you know, you have to know everybody and what they're good at. But I'm, you know, it just, again, comes back to knowing who you're working with and kind of their level of knowledge. Yeah,
the moral of the story is just do a good job.
Do a good job at what you're doing.
And you'll
but
be
also
successful.
know that there's different people who are masked under the facade of design. But you could, I could tell them very quickly once you start talking to them if they're just putting some pretty pictures together and they have no concept of how it's going to come to life.
Right. It's like if you've never given me a drawing of something.
Right.
It's like you've only sent me pictures of things. You're like, can we make this like 24 by 36 by...
Yeah. I mean, you know the difference. And I'm sure the guys that are listening know the difference too of who they're dealing with.
Yeah. We had a designer. I don't really know if they have any... I think they came to the old shop, her and her business partner, I guess. I drew a bunch of stuff, blah, blah. And then they like ghosted us. And then they came back out of the woodwork like 2 weeks ago. And I'm like, beginning of the year. I'm like, we could, stand to fill up the schedule. I'm like, I'll just draw this one thing, send a price. No response. I'm like, why did I even?
Put your energy into it. I know that's.
And now I'm like, I want to send an email. Like, how come you didn't email me back? What's your problem?
Not even worth it.
I'm not gonna.
God forbid you convince her to continue to work with you. What it is if people are going to steal, your design or steal your information and try to like lowball and go to somebody else, those people you don't want anyway. Like, so, okay, you got away with my concept. Go fucking achieve it because you ain't going to do it. Like, because we look at detail. And the drawings don't show all the detail of how it needs to be made or what you need to produce the room that you think you're going to get from my pictures. Mm-hmm. So like, good luck, bitch.
Well, we just talked about that, how a client, you know, we had a designer as an intermediary, but the client stole my drawings and sent them to another cabinet maker who I know.
Of course.
And
a little teaching of it's a small world is true.
I'm like, how are you going to build this vanity for this price? He's like, and you know, it became this whole thing. And I ended up charging him for drawings, which I should have charged like 3 or 4 times more than I did. But
you also don't want to burn him, you know.
Or the designer, because, you know,
designers
it wasn't them who
did it. Yeah. But you'll have clients that are like that, though, that are so headstrong that they're like, I could get this for less. And it's like, okay, go do it. Like, I'm not going to help you do it, though.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to price out cabinetry and, like, you know, I had a commercial client who knew someone and wanted to do their service area with that person. Great. But I'm not going to freely give you all the information that they're going to need because they don't usually do commercial work or like stuff like that. And I'll do a little bit because I care about the client, but I'm not going to go to the extent that I would if I was working with you and getting you specific drawings and information, because it's not that I'm getting money from you to work with you. It's that we have a relationship.
Right.
So if you're going to use somebody else and you want to quote unquote save money, you're getting what they produce, you know, like
I'm not here to save you money on that.
And then not get paid, you know, not that that's what happened with that, but that's what will happen if you just let people keep taking. But, you know, that boils down to the client and if they're going to be good clients or they're going to be assholes. And that's kind of what happens. And I think for the most part, again, this is based on the person you're working with, but if the designer is honest and trustworthy, like they will tell you this is getting bid out. They're taking it on their own, you know, and that's straight up front. Like that's what I do, at least. If I know that they're going to do that, sometimes it happens later. Like you're saying, like they get the price and then they're like, fuck, we can't afford that, but we still want this. And then they think that they could do it themselves. I'll tell you that too. Yep. Like, and that's not to burn the client. It's just about like, I am not involved in that. Like if they're going to dumb it down and you're going to see, you know, pictures of their janky ass shit.
Yeah, it's going to be a facsimile of what you initially 100%. Designed. We had a client, we're building a little window, like a bay window, little bench. And, you know, he's got a GC in the job that's doing all the work. And he's like, yeah, you know, so-and-so's guy said, just show me what they designed and I'll build it, you know, for the same price or for less. I'm like, it's not going to be the same thing.
But it's not that kind of business, right? It's not like...
it's a fight to the bottom, you know,
100%.
A race to the bottom.
Yeah. And it's not like something where it's just like, oh, I have that shirt too I'm selling. Like I could sell you that for this amount.
Yeah. It's not the same.
This is like, you know, it's a man-made. So.
Yeah. You know, this guy's going to do it on site with finger jointed pine and they're going to paint it with a brush.
The product is going to look very different.
Yeah.
And
we saw some other work that we bid on like some beams and like a mantle. And we ended up doing just the mudroom, and now we're doing this bench. But when we went to the site, we're like looking, we're like,
yeah. Like, and I mean, that's what we do all day, right? Like, because sometimes we also get put in the middle of a lot of, you know, relationships on site. And sometimes you just can't, like the client is just pushing one direction and you just can't help it, right? Like they're going to do what they're going to do. And you know, they're going to bring in their own tile guy and not listen to you.
Here's the rope,
and
hang yourself.
And not use John, who I would only use. But it's just what it is. And, you know, that's why I like to have open communication with the people I work. Because if I have to bring you in to save the day on a different piece, like I want you to know, like, this wasn't me giving away your money. Like,
I didn't find some other guy.
100%. And I mean, some designers do have where they add percentages in and stuff like that. And they do have kind of skin in that game. I don't do that. Not that one day I never will, but at this point, I just don't like the feeling of that. I want the product to come out how I want it to come out, and I want to use the best person. I don't want to have to mark that up.
We've had designers
for the communication.
The client wants to go directly through you, but can you like tack on like extra like 15% for us?
Doesn't that feel shitty though?
Yeah, and then I have to like broker this secret deal and then like disperse money out.
I have no time for that.
Like, I don't like this.
There is enough out here for everybody to make money. You know,
it's not my fault that you didn't charge correctly for your work. You know,
100%, and that's why it's like I like to get paid for the work that I'm doing.
Or you can't have the hard conversation with the client that says you can go directly through them, but I need to charge you for
hourly for communication.
Yeah. I mean, I came up with some of the ideas, blah, blah, blah. I got to,
And depending on the client, that could be a difficult situation. Yeah. But still, then I'm just like, okay. Sorry, that's just what's going to happen. Like, as far as I would say in that kind of situation, even if I did the design already, which is typical, I would say any kind of communication back, either from them or from you guys, I have to charge hourly for because time is money, right? Like, so usually if I need a site visit or something like that, like you're going to be billed. And I would say 9 times out of 10, they're cool with that. Because also they have the misconception that they will be saving money because they're like, oh, well, it'll just be for however how much time she spends. Well, if your guy really fucking sucks, it's going to be a lot of time and it's going to be painful for you. But, that's all part of the game. But I just feel like it's so it's not even slimy because that's kind of how the industry operates for a large part. And I get why people are attracted to that. But for me, it doesn't feel good. So I don't do it. I just pay me for what I do. And if it's the time that I spend doing it to help you get to where you are, great. I'm not adding a percentage on to that. And I get where I feel more, which I don't do yet, but where I feel more comfortable with that is if I'm purchasing product for you.
Yeah.
But again, and I know a lot of designers are percentage on top of that, which again is just one model. I still feel better charging for my time for that because really when it comes down to furniture, you could charge a percentage. Let's just say you're charging 20% on top of it. Some furniture becomes a nightmare.
Yeah,
you're waiting. There's some furniture that I have so much communication where I want to blow my brains out, trying to get this piece to them. And then there's other things that are nothing. So I know people think it balances out, but sometimes it really doesn't. So it's pay me for my time and whatever it takes to get this piece to you. And you get my discount or you get whatever you're getting, if it's for list or not. But I'm not adding anything to that.
And if you want the best for the client and there's this really nice piece, let's say it costs $5,000, you're going to put 20% on top of that. And now it's out of reach for the client.
Well, and also some pieces they could just purchase themselves. So what are they going to do? They're going to go online because that's what everybody does now. And they're going to type it in or steal your picture and throw it online.
$7,500 for this.
I could go to, whatever store or whatever site and get it for this much. Why are you charging me more than that? And I get there's a lot that goes into ordering furniture. So I'm not saying that they don't deserve money for doing that work because work is work, right? But I'm just then I'll charge you hourly.
Yeah.
I don't want you to pay more than other people. I just want you to charge, pay for my time because my time is what's worth something, right? Knowledge and time. So
yeah, because it could take 3 times as long to procure something that costs half the price. So
100%.
Yeah,
it's just and people get it. And typically with that, I feel like clients too, because some clients have worked with other designers who do that already, which is fine. Their project comes out fine and they pay whatever it is. But I think when I come from that kind of model currently, they feel like this kind of perception that you are looking out for them, right? Because you are looking out for them. And down the road, not sure if, that'll stay the same with the price increases of everything.
Yeah.
But I think that if I don't feel good about it, I'm not doing it. So I couldn't imagine, other parts of the industry that, some contractors that just add and add and add. It's
like the general the 20, I don't know when it started, but the modern day general contractor who does nothing. And all they do is hire subs and they mark it up. And it's
and managing people is doing something.
Yeah,
however,
but they have to actually do
those
that.
people.
Yeah.
So on a job that, we were both on, general contractor that really has the client or me doing the managing of their subs is a problem because you're charging on top of it and that person is willing to pay that. However, now you have me doing the work or you have them doing the work. They're going to feel a certain kind of way about that. Yeah. They might not at first. They might be like, oh, I'm just helping out. Look at me involved in my project. But when people are spending millions of dollars, they don't want to be that involved. Even if you think their wife wants to be involved, they don't want to be involved in that kind of level of detail. They shouldn't be talking to subs. They shouldn't be, really scheduling people to come to the site. That's your job. That's what you're getting paid for. We should all do exactly, what we're there for. Yeah. But it gets shitty and then you're coming from where I come from, it's you don't want to throw anybody under the bus because you are a team. However, if you have somebody who keeps failing and then you have to charge for that, and then they're questioning you, it's like, hold on. This would typically be done by a GC.
Right.
I know you guys think that you are one, but this is who does that work, you know? But again, that's education of the client and then perception. And if everybody's like rising with the tide, or if people are just trying to drag you down or get something for nothing. I've had a lot of contractors who unfortunately are like, oh, well, can you go get this material? Oh, can you order this material? Oh, can you just do this? And I roll with it. But at some point it's like, hold on a second.
Yeah. You
should be purchasing doors. Why am I purchasing doors and windows? Like, you should be doing that. Like, I, again, have no problem to helping out, but if I'm going to continue to work with you, like, that's your job.
Yeah, that's the thing. You know, if that's your MO as a GC, like,
it ain't great.
You're going to burn a lot of bridges.
100%. And it's like, you're getting, just charge the client for your time. I'm like, yeah, but now I'm taking on your liability of, God forbid, a door comes in wrong. You can't return that, you know, most of the time.
Yeah.
So it's like, you need to do your part too. And if you can't do it, get somebody who can do it so that I'm not doing it.
It's created this perception too from clients that's really, it's harmed all of the trades where it's like the trades are out to rip you off. You need to watch them like a hawk. You know, they're all bad people. That's the
energy you want going on when somebody's spending money.
Right.
You want them to be worried about people entering their house or like somebody stealing from them or any of that. Like who?
Or just like trying to rip you off. Like, you know, like
100%. Well,
selling,
that's stealing,
you know,
right?
well, yeah. You know, saying that you're getting this, but you really get this, you know, the work is shoddy.
I just don't understand just because we're not shitty people, but like, I just don't understand that concept of like how you sleep. I don't sleep and I do what I think is the best thing, but I don't know how people sleep at night doing stuff like that. Because eventually they'll go out of business, but you hurt people all the way down the road and everybody else who comes in. Cause it's like, oh, are you sure about this person? Oh, are you sure? Are you sure? And it's like, I'm going to put my neck on the line for somebody who was like, you know.
Yeah. They're like, well, he's 10% cheaper. So
are you okay with that? But it's just, you know, that's the dirty end of it. But I would say, you know, those people as soon as you meet them on a job site. So it's kind of like, ugh.
Usually they're in like a GMC Sierra, like
not talking
Denali,
trash.
You know.
They're not in a Toyota Tundra or a Toyota Tundra.
They're in like a $95,000 super clean pickup.
Yeah. Well, my pickup is clean, so don't talk trash. Jeff. How dare you? It is new though.
It's nice.
But you could tell those people as soon as you start talking to them, you're like, oh God, this is going to be rough.
Yeah.
But hopefully you have enough pull where you're getting them to still do what you need.
Yeah, and you get through that job and then, you know.
Never see them again, hopefully. Yeah. Not speaking to anybody. South Jersey contractor that we had.
Don't read into any of these statements. So what do you think? What, you got any closing remarks?
Closing remarks. Do your job. No, I'm kidding. I
think good.
In the end, it's just about cultivating the relationships, I think, as a whole on the job site. So even if it's, you know, a sub that you really have no interaction with, like as far as your work isn't impinging on anybody, but like having a good relationship with a stone guy, having a good relationship, like even with an electrician or a plumber or something like that, just having that Rolodex of people and knowing who has a good relationship and who doesn't, because everybody talks, right? It's just like in a hair salon. Everybody's going to talk. If somebody's going to bring a problem up to you when you're on a job site installing a cabinet, like, oh, I got this problem with this other part of my house. Like, you're going to have a guy you could give them, or you're going to be like, oh, you should call this person or whatever. So word of mouth is kind of, I think, most important, word of mouth and reputation. So if you come off as a good person and you do your work well, even good enough, you know, that you will get recommended for work and continue doing what you do. And I know we talked about a lot of negative aspects of it, but there are a lot of good projects and there are a lot of good people to work with. And usually it just comes down to time and money that wreck it.
Yeah. Well, it's like you were saying, like treat every job as you're all a team, you know, like even,
that's
we go into
important.
a job. I don't know. I might not know who the plumber is, who the electrician is, the painter, But you need to, instead of going in with this like contempt, which I see a lot, it's just like machismo kind of thing where it's like, oh, the fucking painter or the fucking plumber. Like, go in with just the goal to give the client the best thing possible. And
like say hello to people.
Yeah. But like, try and help each other out. Is this in your way? Whatever. Just treat it like everybody's a big team just trying to get this job done.
That's key, I think, in anything. Being a team and getting the project done, everybody making what they should make or getting recommendations to other things, because clients talk, people who are in the trades talk. Like, if you suck, people are going to know about it. Yeah. And that goes, GCs all the way down to the guy hanging a piece of artwork in your house. Like, it matters.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're not on job sites and other trades and people are saying, you have a card,
100%.
You're doing something wrong because the bar is so low.
Yeah, there are a lot of people that are below that bar.
You only need to put like a little bit of effort in to look like, are worthy of being hired.
100%. I mean, I think that's just key to everything. But try not to be at that low bar, like maybe a little bit above it. But I think just making sure that you're not negatively opening up with anything negative, because we know we could talk about negative stuff all day long because things happen at every job site. That's what you remember, is that you 100%. Remember the negative. But it's like you have like electricians that, this is going to be a nightmare. And like, don't do that. Think it and tell your guy that. Yeah. But like, don't put that out to everybody else. Try, even though if it feels fake, just try to like, just don't say anything then. Just say hello. Like, if you think it's going to suck. Yeah. But, everybody wants the same thing at the end of the day. Clients want to know that they're spending their money and they're getting what they're looking for, and having good people do it. They feel better when the people are nice that they're spending the money on, just like you do working with them. Yeah. Like, and that's really how you keep your name going, is through client relationships and trade relationships. And, being a curmudgeon is not going to really get you anywhere. Yeah, keep that in the shop. Yeah, keep that with your peeps. But I think overall, just producing good product is always key. And then always, again, being helpful as far as if things pop up, kind of pitching it as like, these are the options that we have, rather than like, this is your problem. Right. Because I have some people who do that, obviously. But it's flexibility, coming up with, being solution oriented instead of like doom and gloom, Chicken Little style. Yeah. But designers are always looking for more people to work with, more cabinetry, just because everybody wants to see bids and stuff. So it goes from everything from cabinetry, and you have guys who you're like, oh, this would be a perfect job for them, right? So you can kind of see where people's strengths are. And sometimes people are just too busy and can't get to it, so it's always good to have other people that you could throw into the fire. Yep. But I think that comes again with social media and kind of exposure. So if you're not getting exposed via the World Wide Web, then it needs to be through other people talking about you and like pitching your name out there. And if you suck as a human, that ain't happening. Go to betterhelp.com. Betterhelp.com. Please sponsor us. Not sponsored. Well, thanks for coming on. Of course. We'll have to have you on again. Thanks for having me. Next time Rob will be here, and we'll have him chatting too. So yeah, thanks everybody for listening. And I always do this. I say this, but then I'm going to hit that thing, and it's going to be a recording of me saying the same thing. It's just like an echo. But yeah, thanks everybody. We'll talk to you next week. We truly appreciate you listening. If you want to support the show, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Share the show with your friends, or consider subscribing to our Patreon. We'll see you next week. Yeah!